The lawyer's voice echoed through the wood-paneled conference room like a death knell. To my loyal personal assistant Elias Rivera, I bequeath my entire estate, including all holdings in Harrington Enterprises properties and liquid assets totaling approximately $2.8 billion. Beckett Harrington felt the room spin. His sister Lauren gasped, her perfectly manicured hands flying to her mouth, while his younger brother Mason slammed his fist on the mahogany table, sending papers scattering. "This is a joke, right, Dad? Couldn't have been serious," Mason yelled, his face red with rage. Elias sat at the end of the long table, his simple button-down shirt and slacks a stark contrast to the designer suits around him. At 31, he looked younger, his dark hair neatly combed, but his brown eyes filled with shock and sorrow. He had been Victor Harrington's personal assistant for 8 years, helping him through business deals, health scares, and the lonely nights after his wife's death. Victor had treated him like a son, confiding in him about regrets about how his own children had grown distant, more interested in the money than the man. But this leaving everything to him, Elias never asked for it, never expected it. He felt a wave of guilt wash over him as the accusations began. "You manipulative bastard," Lauren spat, pointing at Elias. "You took advantage of Dad when he was weak. We all know about your lifestyle. This is fraud." The lawyer, Mr. Thompson, raised his hand. "The will is legal and witnessed." Mr. Harrington was of sound mind. "There is a letter for each of you, but the main bequest is clear." Beckett, 32, sat frozen, his mind racing. He had always been the responsible one, working in the family business, trying to earn his father's approval. But Victor had been cold, distant, especially after Beckett's mother died. Now this. The man who barely knew his own son left billions to the assistant. Beckett's chest tightened with a mix of anger and something deeper, a secret he had buried for years. He had struggled with his own feelings, attractions that didn't fit the image his father expected. Had Victor known? Was this some kind of message? The meeting descended into chaos as the siblings demanded answers, threatening to contest the will, calling their lawyers immediately. Elias tried to speak, his voice quiet. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't ask for any of this. Victor was like a father to me. He helped me when no one else did." But his words were drowned out by the shouting. Beckett stood up, his tall frame towering, his blue eyes locked on Elias with a mixture of fury and curiosity. As the meeting broke, he followed Elias out into the hallway of the Manhattan law firm. "We need to talk," Beckett said, his voice low and intense, grabbing Elias' arm gently but firmly. Elias nodded, his heart pounding. This was just the beginning of a storm that would test every loyalty, every secret, and every choice they had ever made. Outside the building, the New York streets buzzed with oblivious energy, while inside the Harrington family, the foundations of their world cracked wide open. Lauren paced the sidewalk, already on her phone, rallying their legal team, her voice sharp with plans to prove undue influence. Mason lit a cigarette, his hand shaking, muttering about how their father must have lost his mind in the final months of cancer treatment. Beckett stood apart, his thoughts churning. He remembered the last time he saw his father alive, Victor, in the hospital, bed thin and pale, but eyes still sharp. They had argued about the business, about Beckett's single status, about expectations that weighed like chains. Victor had said something cryptic, "Then you think you know loyalty, son, but you don't." Now it made a terrible sense. Elias walked a few steps ahead, his shoulders hunched against the autumn wind. He thought back to the nights he sat with Victor, reading reports, bringing soup, listening to stories of a life filled with achievements but empty of real connection. Victor had once said, "Elias, you are the son I wish I had raised." At the time, Elias laughed it off, but now those words carried the weight of billions and the destruction of a family. The guilt clawed at him. Was he wrong to honor the wish, or should he walk away to avoid the pain he saw in their eyes, the pain of children who felt replaced? Society would tear him apart too. He knew the whispers already starting, the gay assistant who seduced a dying man for money. It didn't matter that their relationship was pure friendship built on respect. Prejudice didn't need facts. Beckett caught up to him at the corner. "Why him, why not us?" he demanded, his voice cracking slightly. "We are his blood." Elias stopped, turning to face him. Because blood wasn't enough for him in the end. He wanted someone who chose him every day without expecting a check. "I chose to stay. You all chose to stay away." The words hung between them, heavy with truth neither wanted to face. Beckett felt the sting like a slap. He had his reasons: work, travel, the fear of disappointing a man who demanded perfection. But deep down he knew Elias was right. And that knowledge mixed with a confusing pull he felt toward this man, he barely knew the man who now held his family's legacy. The confrontation stretched on with accusations and defenses until the sun dipped low, casting long shadows on the city. Beckett walked away with more questions than answers, but one decision burned clear: he would not let this go without a fight. Little did he know the fight would change everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and himself. Elias pulled his arm away, meeting Beckett's gaze steadily. "Your father wanted this, Beckett. He told me many times how proud he was of you, but how he wished you could be open with him." The words landed like a punch. Beckett stepped back, his face paling as the implications sank in. Open? How much did his father know about the nights Beckett spent questioning everything about who he was supposed to be? The family emergency meeting that evening at the penthouse only amplified the tension. Lauren had called in their top attorney, a sharp woman, who immediately started drafting the contest papers claiming Victor lacked capacity due to medication. Mason poured whiskey, his laughs bitter as he recounted old slights, how Victor favored business over family vacations. Elias arrived at their insistence, sitting quietly while they grilled him for hours. "Why did Dad change the will last month?" Lauren demanded, leaning across the glass table, her eyes cold. "What did you say to him in those private moments?" Elias kept his voice even. "He was dying, Lauren. He wanted to make sure his money went to someone who would use it for good, not just spend it. He started a foundation in his mind for underprivileged kids. I was just the one he trusted to carry it out." Beckett listened from the corner, his mind replaying childhood memories of his father praising him for straight A's but never hugging him after a game. The pressure to be the perfect heir had pushed Beckett into a life of appearances, successful deals, but empty relationships. Now with Elias in the room, the air felt charged with unspoken truths. Later, when the others left, Beckett stayed behind. He found Elias on the balcony overlooking Central Park. The city lights twinkled below, but the view felt distant. "Tell me the truth," Beckett said, softer now. "Was there more between you and Dad?" Elias shook his head. "No romance, if that's what you mean. Just respect. He knew I was gay, and it never bothered him. In fact, he said it made me stronger for living honestly." That hit Beckett hard. His own secrecy felt like a cage suddenly. They talked for hours, Elias sharing stories of Victor's regrets about not bridging the gap with his kids, Beckett revealing the weight of expectations that made him hide parts of himself. The media leak came at midnight, headlines screaming gay assistant steals Harrington billions. Phones buzzed with notifications. Societal backlash hit like a wave, comments online calling Elias the predator, slurs flying. Elias stared at his screen, the words cutting deep. He had faced prejudice before, but never at this scale. Should he fight for what Victor wanted or surrender to protect his peace? The moral dilemma tore at him: blood versus loyalty, right versus easy. By morning, the family was divided, Lauren pushing aggressive legal action, Mason leaking tips to reporters for leverage. Beckett felt the pull in two directions: family duty versus the growing respect for the man who stood by his father when they didn't. The decision to dig deeper into Victor's diaries came that afternoon, Beckett and Elias meeting at a quiet cafe. The pages revealed Victor's pain over lost time, his hope that the will would force his children to confront their flaws. Beckett closed the book, his hand shaking. "This changes nothing," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. The day ended with them parting ways, tension high, but seeds of understanding planted. The price was already showing in sleepless nights and fractured bonds. The confrontation at Elias' modest Brooklyn apartment the next evening started with raised voices, but ended in unexpected silence. Beckett had driven there after another family blow-up, Lauren accusing him of going soft. He pounded on the door, demanding answers about the diaries. Elias led him to a small space filled with books and simple furniture, a far cry from mansions. "You think this makes it okay?" Beckett snapped, gesturing at the papers he brought. "Dad was vulnerable. You were there every day." Elias stood his ground. "I was there because he asked. You were busy closing deals, proving you didn't need him." The argument raged for an hour, accusations of manipulation flying until Elias pulled out a sealed letter from Victor addressed to Beckett. "Read it." Beckett tore it open, and the handwriting familiar. "Son, I know the burden I placed on you. If you are reading this, it means I chose to reward the one who saw me, not the fortune. Find your own path. Be honest with yourself." The words blurred. Beckett sank onto the couch, the truth crashing down. His father had suspected his inner struggles all along. Elias sat across from him, sharing his own story of coming out to a conservative family, the rejection that made him value loyalty above all. For the first time, Beckett saw the man not as a thief, but as someone who carried similar scars from societal judgment. The internal conflict raged in Beckett. How could he betray his siblings by softening toward Elias, yet how could he ignore the authenticity Victor praised? They spent the night talking, not fighting, sharing meals and memories. Beckett left at dawn with more questions, but a crack in his armor. Meanwhile, Lauren hired a private investigator to dig into Elias' past, unearthing an old ex-boyfriend drama, but nothing criminal. The family plotted at lunch. Mason suggesting they use Elias' sexuality against him in court, paint him as unfit. The prejudice felt heavy even in their own words. Elias received the first hate mail that afternoon, anonymous letters calling him names, threatening exposure. He sat alone, weighing the cost of keeping the fortune, the damage to his mental health, the chance to fulfill Victor's vision of a foundation, helping others like him. The choice loomed large: right to honor a dying wish or wrong to tear a family apart. Tension rose as court papers were filed, the battle lines drawn. Legal teams clashed in the first hearing, the judge ordering discovery, but warning against frivolous claims. The private investigator reports came back clean. Elias had no financial motives, just years of dedicated service. Yet the media frenzy exploded, tabloids running stories with headlines like "Gay Gold Digger Ruins Heirs." Public prejudice poured in online forums filled with homophobic rants, protests outside the Hamptons estate gates. Elias faced death threats, his phone ringing with anonymous calls. He questioned everything. Was fighting worth the toll on his health and safety? The family gathered for a tense dinner at the penthouse, accusations flying, Lauren claiming Elias brainwashed Victor during chemo sessions. Mason revealed he had spoken to old staff, painting Elias as too close, too influential. Beckett sat silent, his mind torn. He had started to see Elias as an ally, someone who understood the weight of hidden truths. That night, Beckett drove to the estate alone, finding Elias packing a few things, ready to walk away. "Don't," he said, the words surprising even himself. "Dad wanted you to have this. Maybe we all need to learn from it." Their conversation stretched into the night, Beckett admitting the pressure that kept him closeted, the fear of losing family approval. Elias listened without judgment, sharing how Victor's acceptance had healed parts of him. The emotional bond deepened subtly, a shared vulnerability that felt like the start of something more. But the price showed in Beckett's sleepless nights, wondering if supporting Elias meant betraying blood. The court ordered interim management, forcing Beckett and Elias to work together on estate affairs. The decision brought them closer, but heightened family rifts. Lauren threatened to cut ties with Beckett if he didn't join the suit fully. The moral trade-off weighed heavy: loyalty to father versus loyalty to siblings. Societal backlash intensified, with news vans camping outside. Elias considered giving up the fortune to end the pain, but Victor's letter echoed in his mind. The tension built as they prepared for the next hearing. The court order forced collaboration, Beckett and Elias traveling to the Hamptons estate to review assets together. The sprawling mansion felt empty without Victor, the ocean waves a constant reminder of loss. Tense days of paperwork turned to late-night talks on the balcony. Beckett opened up about his struggles with sexuality, the dates he faked for appearances, the loneliness that followed. Elias shared his journey of self-acceptance, the strength it took to live openly. The subtle emotional bond grew through quiet moments of understanding, a hand on the shoulder during a difficult financial review, a shared laugh over Victor's quirky notes. One evening after a grueling day, Beckett broke down, the weight of family expectations crushing him. Elias offered comfort, not words, but presence, listening without judgment. The connection felt real, raw, and healing. But back in the city, Mason leaked a false story to tabloids claiming Elias manipulated Victor with promises during illness. The family rifts deepened, Lauren calling Beckett a traitor for his growing alliance. Elias received calls from his own conservative family urging him to reject the blood money to avoid shame. The internal conflicts peaked, Elias torn between honoring Victor and preserving his dignity, Beckett questioning if pursuing truth meant losing everything familiar. They returned to the estate for more work, the forced proximity accelerating their understanding. Decisions carried costs, Beckett distancing from siblings, Elias facing isolation. The romance built slowly through respect and shared pain, no rush, just genuine care. Societal pressure mounted with public debates on inheritance, ethics, and prejudice. The hearing approached with new evidence, the video message from Victor. Tension reached new heights as betrayals surfaced and awakenings began. The leaked story hit hard tabloids, splashing claims that Elias used emotional manipulation during Victor's final weeks. Family dinners turned to shouting matches, Lauren accusing Beckett of choosing a stranger over blood. Mason admitted the leak, his desperation showing. Elias sat through it, all the hurt visible, but his resolve strengthening. His own family called again, the conversation filled with disappointment, pleased to walk away from the tainted money. The moral dilemma consumed him: was accepting the fortune a betrayal of societal norms or a fulfillment of genuine loyalty? Beckett defended Elias privately, the two sharing a moment of comfort on the balcony after the chaos. Their bond deepened with quiet admissions and support, the emotional connection now undeniable. Beckett realized his feelings went beyond alliance, a pull toward Elias that scared and excited him. The cost showed in lost sleep, strained relationships, and the realization that coming to terms with himself meant facing the world differently. Court preparations intensified, the legal team presenting Victor's medical records proving sound mind. Public prejudice continued, protests and comments, but support trickled in from those who saw the story as one of loyalty. Elias decided to fight not for the money, but for Victor's wish. Beckett made his choice to stand with him despite the family fallout. Betrayals among siblings came to light, old resentment surfacing. The awakening started for Beckett, seeing the price of hiding his true self. The story built to the climax with a hearing date set and a private family gathering planned. The court hearing brought everything to a head. Evidence presented, the video message from Victor playing on screen. In it, he explained his choice clearly. I saw my children chase shadows of success while Elias gave me his time, his honesty, his care without asking for more. This is my way to reward what matters and force you to confront your own truths. The room fell silent, tears and anger mixing. The private family gathering afterward exploded with confrontations, truths about each child's failures, Lauren admitting her focus on status over visits, Mason confessing jealousy, Beckett revealing his hidden struggles. Elias spoke calmly, I never wanted to divide you. Victor hoped this would heal, not hurt. Beckett defended him publicly for the first time, the words coming from a place of growth and conviction. The legal battle shifted, with the video swaying opinions towards settlement talks. Betrayals and sacrifices lay bare, the emotional toll evident in broken voices and exhausted faces. Each character faced the price of their choices, family bonds tested, societal views challenged. The turning point came when Lauren proposed a compromise, the family beginning to see the flaws in their approach. Tension peaked, then eased as understanding dawned. The settlement was reached, Elias creating a foundation with a portion of the fortune dedicated to causes Victor cherished, including support for LGBTQ youth and family reconciliation programs. The remaining assets were shared under conditions that encouraged the children to engage meaningfully, not just financially. Beckett came out to the family, the conversation painful, but freeing, his choice to pursue a relationship with Elias marking his awakening. The costs were real: lost friendships, months of therapy, a new life built on honesty. Elias found peace honoring Victor's wish while mending what could be mended. The family began slow steps toward healing, the drama leaving scars but also lessons. As they stood together on the balcony, looking out over the ocean, Beckett and Elias reflected on the journey. The inheritance had shattered the old world but built something stronger on truth and choice. Was Victor's radical decision to leave everything to the one who showed him unwavering loyalty a true act of justice and love, or was it a cruel betrayal that only deepened family pain and division? True or false?